ways forward for this project. Lovely to see you as well, Candice. And it has been really sort of hard to make sure that everyone involved in this research and in this project as well to be able to participate, but we've tried to do that as much as possible through recording the sessions. So that's what the recordings are being used for. And also for everyone else here who doesn't know Anneke Slabbert yet, she's the research assistant of this project. And she has been doing all the recordings and organization and keeping us sane, and especially helping us with the Wi-Fi. And we couldn't have done it without her. Yeah, definitely. But what I'm going to do first of all is welcome Hannah Shakespeare, who hasn't, as far as I know, yet been in any of our sessions. And it has been a delight to work with Hannah. She's a senior commissioning editor at Routledge, and she commissions books for people who don't know her, but I know that quite a few people here in the room have, one way or another, sort of had conversations with her and also published through her. But their books are globally, and it is very much in research methods. And what was interesting when I was just sort of looking on the internet, how you described Hannah, is that you described as research methods in qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods, which is very interesting. So it doesn't mention post-qualitative. So it should be very sure. So I can't remember, that was actually Routledge itself that says that. So you're interested in publishing content from researchers at all stages of their career, which is very important. I mean, what we've really highlighted, I think, these 3 days is the importance of the views and how important it is for us to listen to PhD researchers, master's students as well. And that you're interested in different formats, including textbooks, edited collection, handbooks, supplementary text, and monographs aimed at students and researchers. So when I read that, it's not surprising that I know that you're working incredibly hard and always so quickly to respond, and always in such a caring and fantastic way. It has been just a joy to work with you. So I'm just going to hand over to you, if that's okay, so you can say a little bit about the books, but also about the book series, and maybe even about post-qualitative research. I don't want to put you on the spot, but yeah, just welcome to this space. Wonderful you are here, and wonderful to see the sun is shining in England.
I know. It's not raining for once, which is unusual for winter in England. So yes, thank you, Karen. That was such a lovely introduction. I feel like I, was going to do that. I'm Hannah. I'm the research methods editor, but you have far surpassed anything I could do there. So thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I wish I was really good at speaking without notes, but I'm not. So I am going to be referring to my notes, which is strange because I can see notes right now, but I can't see all of you. So I'll come back in a minute. But yes, it is my pleasure to be here today to officially launch the series Post-Qualitative, New Materialist and Critical Post-Humanist Research, and its first 2 books, the Navigating or Introductory Guide and the Glossary volumes. So as Karen said, I'm going to talk just for a few minutes about publishing the series and about post-qualitative research books. So as you might have gathered, Karen and I were talking about today and what we might do, and she suggested that I might want to talk a bit about why I think publishing post-qualitative and post-research in general is important. And when she said that to me, my immediate thought was, oh no, I'm not sure how qualified I am to comment on it. But I think that she's right, that I should talk a bit about this, particularly because this book series is a foundation stone of my publishing in the post world. I think some of you know that when I came to Routledge in 2016, a lot of my publishing was comprised of qualitative research texts, particularly from the US with the acquisition of Left Coast Press, and that part has grown and remained the largest part of what I do. But now I strongly and essentially believe that I can't call myself a publisher of qualitative research without publishing post-qualitative research. But I think it's much more than that. To me, post-qualitative research, I think, is the necessary and ongoing evolution of the ways in which research is conducted. I'm not going to pretend that I always understand all of my books in depth, because I'm not an expert in qualitative and post-qualitative research. But what I see between them is a consistent re-examination of ontological principles, along with challenges and disruption to conventional ways of thinking about research and research paradigms. And then we have this book series' consistent focus on being able to apply those principles in practice. So I'm very proud that Routledge can be a home for qualitative and post-qualitative books. And to reiterate, I regard it as a completely essential part of what I do. As for this book series, the stars very much aligned here for me and for Routledge. In 2019, I'd started commissioning some books in the post areas. And then, as it happens quite often when you work on an interdisciplinary portfolio, I got an email from my colleague in our education team saying, I've worked with Karen Morris before, she's great. This series that is attached, do you think it looks like it would be of interest for you? So I'd like to say that was it, but that's not how we got here today, certainly not that simply. So what I'd really like to do today is to say thank you to our wonderful series editors, Karen, Viv, Carol, Whaley, Candice, Simone, Karen and Asilia, and Fakile and Annika too. Individually and collectively, our series editors are forces of nature, and they have done the enormous amount of work that's required in starting a new series to bring us here today. So I think all this seems really inadequate given the work you do and our work together, but I would like to say thank you. All right, that's it. Thank you for bearing with me. We've got some pretty amazing books and authors, both published now and upcoming in the series. So I'm going to hand back to Karen to talk a bit further about the aims of the series and what to expect in future, which is exciting. So Karen, back over to you.
You're muted, Karen.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to get my slide up before I share my screen, because otherwise you see all these endless tabs open that also drive me mad. End of the week, end of the day, and they're all open. So I just put them. What I thought probably is the best way of doing this is just sharing the website with you. The website is an essential part of this. So let me just minimize all of us. So you can all see this, yeah? So here is the Post-Qualitative Research Collective. So this website is not as such a Routledge website, but it is entangled with the book series in the sense that each author that publishes in the book series gives a little bit of, you get a kind of sum of money. Remind me how much it is. I think it's 500, isn't it? That you get a particular sum as an author for getting a contract and then writing the book. And 200 of the 500 goes to the series, to the website for its maintenance, for the people who manage it, for developing it, and all that's involved with that. And we might review that at some point, but that is something that as editors we also discuss, and how we develop the website and how it's working with each book. And each book, there's no template for that. That will also be different, and I'll show you that in a minute by just giving some examples of the books that are already there. So the books that, so when I say, okay, so here is the collective, and one for people who've been with us for the last 3 days, they know that one of the major outcomes of this project is research project funded by the National Research Foundation of South Africa, was to produce a book series? Yeah, it was a book series and a website. So, but we did it actually the other way around. So the people, this was at the ARA conference, a lot of people were involved, like Viv and Candace and Carol Taylor, who's unfortunately not well. And otherwise, I'm sure she would have joined us. Wiley, quite a few people, no, Wiley wasn't. Some people came a bit later, but wrote this proposal. And then in the first round, we didn't get the funding, although they thought it was really a good proposal, but there was just not enough money left to fund it. And then the next year, the year after that, it was. But in the meantime, we got so excited. You know, often you do that. And as Roger's excellent presentation this week so showed, you know, you start to dream when you write those proposals, and you think, oh, you know, what if we could do this and that? And then so we didn't want to stop that dream. We actually wanted to put some of that in practice. So we got going. Then we got the funding. We thought, hey, heck, we've already got some of our outcomes, which was great. So what is this book series about? Then let me actually go first to the, no, yeah. So Anneke Slabbert is also the website manager. So she's put this together, and you can see here, meet our editors. So here it gives an overview of this cutting edge. So what is it actually for? It is really supporting researchers, academics, postgraduate, graduate students, and the supervisors across higher education faculties. And I think this is really an important point. I think it's a lot of us are in education, but we feel that this is an educative, you know, it educates, but it educates across fields of inquiry. So it is genuinely transdisciplinary, and you will see that also when I tell you a little bit about all the contracts that have already been signed and the books that are in the process of being written. So it is not just for people either in early childhood or in people in education, but it is a lot of us editors are educators, you know, in higher education. So it also tries to do justice to Black feminisms, Indigenous knowledges, decolonial African, Eastern, and also young children's philosophies. So it is transformative, we hope, transdisciplinary and accessible. And I think that's one of the things that we keep emphasizing. And also we turn proposals away because we feel it is too much speaking to an audience in ways where there's too many words or language that is being used that is not appropriate for we feel that work needs to be done to make it more accessible for everyone, actually, across the board. So here I'm a chief editor, and so what happens if you're interested to submit in this series, then you would first of all submit the proposal to myself, and then it goes, we work a lot in Google Doc, it goes to the rest of the team. It depends a little bit. I feel sorry for people who submit just before I go on leave or on a holiday, then they have to wait a long time, but usually it is dealt with almost immediately. It is shared with the editorial team, with Wiley Zhao, who's in China, Simone Fulaga, who's in Australia, Candace, who also is with us, who is in the US, and Carol Taylor, who is in England, in Bath, and Viv, who is in South Africa, and Karen, who is also in Australia. Azealia, we have as well. Sorry, it's a different kind of, just the little Facebook things that got me off track. And Azealia, of course, not to forget, in New York. And Lauren has done this amazing artwork that we're using not only for the website, but also for the book covers. So what really inspired me in terms of this particular book series is, some of you might be familiar with the Contesting Early Childhood series, and as an author in that series, I really liked the way that was set up. So a lot of it is set up in that way. So what happens after we've had a look at it and we say, yeah, this is really something for the series, and we've got some criteria for that, we're really happy to send it to you. Then it goes to Hannah, and we say, Hannah, we think this will be good for the book series. Or we say, we really like this, but it's actually not really for the book series, but it might fit somewhere else in research methods. And so we have that kind of conversation. And I don't want to bore you with all the further details, but then, and maybe you would like to say a little bit more about Hannah, is about then the process of reviewing. Maybe that would be nice if it comes from you rather than from me.
Yeah, sure thing, Karen. It's interesting to listen to you talk a little bit about the aims of the series, what we're doing, the practicalities, and looking at it from the view of the website as well. I really liked accessible. I think that sums up the series really nicely. But yes, so Karen's talked a little bit about how people go about submitting in the series, the kind of things that we're looking for. So I think I'm talking to people who have a fair range of experience here in terms of reviewing journal papers, and perhaps some of you have been through the process of reviewing book proposals as well. I will say that I completely disagree with Karen about her notion about people who email her before she goes on holiday, and yet somehow she's still on her email and still responds to book proposals, and I don't know how that happens. Everything moves along stunningly efficiently from the series editors. The enormous amount of energy that the team bring, I really just have to be there to go, great, thank you very much, I'll take this, wonderful. So I enjoyed that very much. But yes, so just very briefly, once Karen and the series board have decided that they would like to move ahead with the proposal, they generally send the proposal and comments from them, feedback from them to me, a little bit initially about what they think authors might do, the way they might develop the book. I then take it through a fairly standard peer review process for a book proposal, which, as I say, I think some of you are probably familiar with. We usually get just a couple of reviews, 2 to 3 reviews, done anonymously, and then I will share those comments with the series editors. We'll talk a little bit about what's come up in the reviews before that all gets sent to the author. The author will then provide us with a response to those comments, changes. We'll discuss how the series will support that change in development as well, and then we move forward from there. We're usually able to issue a contract. What happens, I think, by the time a proposal has come to us is it's relatively well developed. One or more of the series editors may have already been in touch with the author, giving feedback. So we usually see proposals that move through review pretty well, I think, Karen, on the whole. There's often some interesting and challenging comments. It's certainly down to me to find people who are sympathetic to the aims of post-qualitative research. I hear this kind of generally put as the right reviewers, which sometimes I think sounds like a biased process, but by that, it's just, it's sending it to people who understand what the series is trying to do, who may be in a different discipline to the author, but understand the way they're trying to change research with what they're doing, I think. Does that all make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. That's very helpful. So there we go. We're in the process of moving from one block of gigs to the other. So probably what is on here yet. So the second book, so we've got 2 books. So what happened was, as editors, we thought it would be actually really good to start off this series with something that we've co-edited, co-written. So we put in a book proposal, but one of the sort of ideas of the book proposal is that of the books themselves is we wanted something that was affordable for students, affordable for people in the South, that wouldn't come out straight away, only as a hardback for years to come, and unaffordable. And again, that was very much inspired by the Contesting Early Childhood series. And also what we're going to do with the coming books is that there's going to be a quick, a short forward by one of the editors, which again was sort of inspired by this Contesting Early Childhood series, where one of the editors or 2 of the editors talk to why does it fit so nicely into this series? What is it actually doing for the series? So that is definitely what's going to happen. For now, there are 2 books that have been published. So one is called Navigating the post-qualitative new materialist and critical post-humanist terrain across disciplines, which we were going to be really launching. But then, of course, COVID happened. COVID was last year. And what has only just come out is the glossary. And I've just realized that my copies are downstairs, and other people listening downstairs, I hope, can bring it upstairs for me. And that is a very different one, because what happened was that we had this one proposal. You're a star. So that's this one here. Because, and you can see here the artwork as well. So what happened was we thought we need some chapters, you know, doing a bit of an introduction, so navigating the terrain. Thank you. And then we thought something like a glossary, so taking sort of key terms like space-time mattering or diffraction or a lot of those concepts that you hear a lot about, but also the binaries. But then we realized if we actually do that work properly, it will become too massive. So then we split it into two. It went to the reviewers and it went through that process that Hannah is talking about. So the glossary is a very different one. The first one is much more like, this is the glossary, and it's also got a different format. I'll explain about that in a minute. This one is more like a normal one where you have chapters written by people who hopefully know what they're talking about, and as a kind of way of navigating the post-qualitative terrain. And then the second one is the glossary. And in there we have 72 entries. And as you can see, that it is also published in this larger format, so that when you, sorry, but I still think very much like that on photocopying. So when you put it on the photocopier, you actually have an entry by teacher or student, or here entanglement, you know, and you can do a workshop, or you can teach, work with students on that particular concept, for example. Now, how does the website work with that? Because what we tried to do, and you can see also here, is that we've underlined concepts that are also elsewhere in the book, so that you think, oh, okay, so power, there's also an entry on power. Oh, okay, great. There's also something about mind body. So we thought it would be very useful for people doing research, doing a post-qualitative writing. And then we thought, well, it would be fantastic if there is a kind of other multimodal dimension to this, because very often when you publish, you have an image. So for example, in this book, in the first chapter, I've got these amazing cartoons from Brendan Reynolds. They are in color, but then they're not actually published in color. And also the size is really small. And for people who want to write a lot, and then it is, oh no, each time I put in an image, it cost me 250 words, but it doesn't do that work really. So although it is maybe, and Roseanne might want to say a bit more about that, but maybe it's not the ideal because, you know, it really privileges the word. Definitely it does, but it is trying to sort of do something that helps also educators. So if I now, for example, so here we go to the resources. We've got our own YouTube channel where we have the channels that go also with these resources. But if you go in here, is that right? Because Annika has done so much work on it. Here are sort of the chapters. And then, okay, so let's go to the introduction of this chapter. And Romanus, who was in a panel yesterday, amazing panel on the ethical dimensions of online courses, because part of this collective is also that we're going to develop an online course is directly related to this very same issue, is that we will have another tab here of an online course or whatever we're going to call it. And then it's like, okay, so I want to actually teach this chapter. So what am I going to do? Am I really going to just tell? And we don't want to do information transmission. So we're going to ask the students, for example, to listen to a podcast on what is this? What does this try to do, this first introduction? And here you've got the images. You've got also, and for example, I mean, I don't want to put others necessarily on the spot, but there is also one where there are some here on another chapter that I've written. And it's important too, is that here there are these images, but then there are also codes, QR codes, which are actually in the book. Yeah, this book, in the book. But then, because of course books, when they publish, they're already out of date, basically. So there was this one, that was already the link to the YouTube channel had got broken. So here is the right one. So what we hope to do, that as time goes on, that more and more will be added to this, maybe also kind of blogs and people using it, and as part of the courses as well. So the next step of what we're going to do is that we're going to do something very similar to the glossary. So we're going to post entries, we're going to do collaborative entries. And we have there's an editorial team that's incredibly active. We have been meeting once a month, and probably reduce it now. Now we finished the writing, but part of that now is the task of actually developing some of those resources. And then what you also can find on the postqualitativeresearch.com website is the events, and they've often very much related to this as well. So you can just see here that this particular event that we've just been having and almost at the end of is also here on this website. Has anyone got any questions about the website? Because if not, then I'm going to in a minute just share some of the books that are coming up. And maybe also it would be great if some of the editors who are also in the room might want to say a little bit. Like something about the series, and anybody? Let me just have a quick look at the comments in the chat. Hello, I'm there. Carol, you're there. Oh, welcome. You're the sea, the purple sea. Welcome. Lovely to see you. Glad you joined, Carol. Yeah, so it's Lauren. Your artwork is so beautiful. Herman, absolutely. There you are. Hi, Carol. Good to see you. Would you like to say anything about the book series, the books? You don't have to.
I can just say something briefly. Afternoons are not good, but it's nice to be here, and I've really enjoyed these 3 days. Yeah, just to say the book, it's been absolutely a wonderful experience just to work with different people on different entries. I'm talking particularly about the glossary. And I think that has enabled us to do some really exciting, interesting, and I don't know, is it too grand to say field defining work? Karen, what do you think? You know, it's kind of laying the groundwork down and pulling so many different things together. And I think it will be a fantastic resource for scholars coming through and for people who want to revisit these ideas. But it really has been you know, a generative space to work within and to work collaboratively with people in the thinking and the doing. So yeah, good.
I think our spreadsheet was a work of art at some point, wasn't it? It's kind of all these different and the ideas, and then no, that's, and then crossing that through and different timelines. Oh my word, but you're all fantastic. And I think what was really, really helpful was to say, okay, we only have so many words. So the idea of it is that the first author, and people have been to Jane Osgood's amazing session earlier on, you know, this whole thing about first author and second author and how does all that work, and, you know, ownership of ideas. And so anyway, our first author then, the first name that you see in the glossary started, and then for 500 words, but not longer than 500 words. And then for 250 words, the other author was diffracting through what had been said before or written and entangled with. And it is not formulaic, actually. People have done it very differently and very different styles, but it had to be the 750, except I think I did a column of non-representation or representation, even the fraction of as much is actually twice that, with those columns with Wiley. But yeah, so and how useful is it? And people here in the room, they're all very familiar with writing abstracts, how difficult and how useful it is of sometimes to say, oh, you only have 250 words. Now say what this is going to be about, and so 500 is nice. It worked really well, but wow, that was, and when I sometimes send it back, I said, it's 800, take some off. You were all amazing, in your responses. Candice, maybe you want to say something? You don't have to.
Actually, Karen, if I might just jump in here just for a moment. I mean, folks, I'd like to say that this is why I love working with these people. Everything that Karen and Carol have just said, I did precisely none of this. They came to me and they said, we want to do this. We want to use it in these ways. We think the glossary will work in this way. Give it all that shaping, structuring, all that wonderful thinking. That's all them. As I say, I just sat there and went, that sounds lovely. Very nice. So I actually think Carol can say field defining, certainly, because I think, again, the focus of this series, the work in terms of being useful, essentially being useful to students, being useful to people doing that type of research is astonishing, really. I mean, I publish a range of post-qualitative books, and Carol very kindly allowed me once to call one of her books a bit mad, and took it as a compliment, which is how I meant it. But these books are just, as I say, so very applicable in terms of research practice that I think in that sense they can be called field defining. So anyway, Candice, sorry, I'll be quiet now.
No, I don't have much to add, Karen, to what you've said, or Carol. I think I agree with Carol. It was such a delight for the glossary, especially, to be partnered with people and to kind of write the initial entry and then have this diffraction process and to go back and forth with somebody about how they experienced your writing, how they think of the concept differently or in different ways than you might. It was really lovely. And I'll echo Karen. I think that spreadsheet, I don't know how Karen did it. I decided after this experience, I never would want to be the editor of a glossary myself, especially to add the layer of diffractions, because it like doubled the amount of work for an editor to keep up with all those timelines. So thank you, Karen, for just keeping us organized and your patience as we needed extensions. But kudos to you for getting it all together. And I'm excited to see what it does in the world.
But also, it only works when we're all as excited and willing to make it work, right? And I think listening has been a very important practice in all of that, and respect for each other's ideas. And that's also going back to you, Hannah, is that where you say, let them do all that stuff, but just to show you, the difference in size of these two books and what it took, right? And you say, well, I said, it has to be bigger. It can't work in this, right? And, the sheer materiality of that and the importance of it. But, with Routledge, my experience is it's possible. Right? So there's respect for these academic arguments that at some point are produced and said, we needed X, Y, or Z because of this, that, and the other. And it was just listened to. And also, it's not always straightforward or obvious for another to see why that is important for us. But yeah, so that has been very much my experience with you and your team and with Matt, how how just pleasant these conversations and these negotiations have been. Really, really pleasant. So yeah, thank you for that. So thank you, everybody.
Least I could do, I think, really.
And what come, you know, when we go back to those dreams, and why do you think, you know, sometimes you have those ideas on you write them on the back of a felt, as we always say in a pub, and you think this is now going to work. But I'm just delighted to just tell you, I just have to quickly have a look at my notes. But I won't mention any names, but we've already signed contracts for 7 books that are going to be published in 2002, so this year and next year. And I can remember when we had these first conversations, Hannah, that you said, well, in order for this book series, you need at least 2 published per year. And now, okay, so to give you a bit of a flavor of the kind of books that are on the way at some point this year and next year, is one on post-digital play and global education. There's one on beyond formal education. There's one on walking and methodology. There's one on post-humanist research and writing as agentic acts of inclusion. So they're not exactly the titles. Some of them will also change. One on Indigenous Pacific post-qualitative approach to research, which is really important that's also included. And there is a book in conversation with Karen Barat about doings of agential realism. And then there's one on post-qualitative entanglements with mental health. So they're very sort of, they come from different disciplinary perspectives and angles. And there's another, you don't know this yet, Hannah, but there's another one that might come your way. It has to go to the editors first. And there's another proposal by one of fifth of my students, actually. So that also will at some point hopefully come to the editors. So if you yourself have done a PhD research, or one of your students has, or you know someone, this might be a really good series to consider, or it might not. You know, it is something that we wouldn't want to just force it into a particular format that doesn't suit it, and you might have other things you're writing that are just not for this series. But I hope I've given you a little bit of an idea of what the series is trying to do. And yeah, I just open it up for other comments, and people maybe have already read the first book, maybe already, I saw it. I don't know how Amazon does that, but when I even hadn't had my own copy, there were already secondhand copies for sale, twice the price. And you think, well, how does this work? Anyway, so yeah, let's open it up to the floor. Or we can just drink. That's also nice. Have a
water. I'm not on gin at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in case anybody was
no. And there's so many different times. I mean, I can't imagine that Candice is, for example, that I would be worried if you were. You're probably on the coffee.
Yeah, coffee for me at this early in the morning.
Okay. And we will be drinking to it tonight. We're going out after our swim, and we need to talk still about that bit, where we might want to meet. Anybody, any comments? Shall we just otherwise do a toast and drink to all the other books that are coming out, and any ideas that you might have? And that might not be, sometimes I get emails from people, oh, you know, I'm working on this, do you think it's something for the series? And then I just give my opinion, or I ask someone in the editorial board who more, you know, in that particular, works more in that area. But yeah, you can always just pop me an email.
Yeah, I will say actually proposals that come to me as well separately, if they look like they might be a good fit for the series, I'll always talk to the author about whether they'd like to talk to Karen on the board, see how that goes. So, yeah.
Okay, in that case, Viv, would you like to say something as editor, as co-writer of this research proposal, as being someone who has been alongside all of this all the time for so long.
Yeah, I do think, just thinking of the glossary, I think I was completely overambitious when I put my name down for so many different entries, but I think I learned a lot in the process. One has to learn about what one's writing about. So I think it was a huge learning curve for me. And I do think it was quite a feat to hold this whole process together. So it was delightful when it eventually did come together. And I'm hoping that it's going to be useful for people, you know, as a sort of basic. And also that the other first book will be a useful one. And I look forward to what we're going to be doing in future. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people, and also for PhD students who have their theses, if they do fit into the book, to actually approach the book series. It's a good opportunity. That's all.
Lovely. Anybody else? Warmest congratulations from Joanna Haynes on the books already out and those in the pipeline. Thank you, Joanna.
If I could just say thank you to the thank you to Hannah. I haven't met you, but thank you for your important role, and to all the editors in the room. Thank you for I was a PhD student last year, grappling through navigating, and just so helpful, and used it. I was able to use it in parts of my PhD, and then this week started reading parts of the glossary. So thank you so much. This is we were talking in that session about how important, I suppose I've used the word important twice. It is quite late in the afternoon, but how significant, how challenging it's going to be, and how helpful it'll be for students and supervisors. So thank you for this, for all the energy that went into all of that. Deeply appreciated. Thank you.
You're allowed to repeat on your birthday, don't you? Okay. Yeah, I suggest just to say before people go, is that we have a closing session at past, a closing of this whole event, an official kind of closing for the west of us, not the east. And that, yes, that's it. Happy birthday to Roseanne from Kendall.
Happy birthday, Roseanne.
Yeah. And we've been singing the session before this one, when she was doing a returning webinar, and talking about that, we also did some activities on returning on the second day, where we were returning to a picture book where the wild things are, and to childhood. And so we use the concept of returning because it's so central. But yeah, Roseanne is running a webinar series on returning, and she did 2 during this seminar too. Okay, to these two, to more, to Hannah, Routledge, and all the support we get, and to all of you being here, and to the wild things, absolutely. And to more wild things. Yeah, cheers and enjoy your weekend. If I don't see you at the official close, you don't have to come, but it would be wonderful for you to also, there they are. Cheers. And yeah, because the closing, just to say, is also an opportunity for you to share your impressions of the 3 days, what worked, what didn't work. And we don't hear the last bits, of course, what didn't work, but also to think about how we can learn from that for next year, when we're going to repeat the event, return, and do it again. Anyway, so cheers. Thank you.
My formidable post-qualitative ladies. Cheers all.
Thank you, Hannah. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.